Yeah, I will finish the final part of this demo project, okay, which is about a database. All right. So just a quick recap. We go back to our project. And last time we were talking about building a simple front-end page with HTML. And we add some CSS styles to decorate it. We have a JavaScript to do all the interaction. Okay, so that file will be served from this URL. Okay, so you go to the root URL, and then that's going to return you the file, and then the browser will render and take care of the rest. Okay, so let's rerun this application. All right, so the port is 5050. We click on the link, and that gave us the actual link. Okay, so I go to with $10 search, and that's the results. Okay, so $5 and just one. And if you do more budget, and that you're gonna see everything. All right, so pretty much we have a end-to-end demo. All right, to do the whole search functionality. All right. Uh, so the main limitation left right now with this project is that the database. All right. So right now we're just hard coding all the database in the just directly in the let me see if I can move the window. Okay, so oh right here. Okay, so right now the data is hard coded locally and as variables. Okay, so the downside about this one is that you cannot persist the data. So for example, I want to change you know, the pricing. Okay, so there's they because of inflation they went up. Okay, and if you want to do that, we have to restart the application and go back here. I refresh. Now, if you search for $5, nothing you can get, and then you have to go with at least $6 to get something. All right, and that is fun, but you can't expect users always go here to modify the variables. Okay, so that's not gonna work. All right, especially when we talk looking at larger scale. If you think about Amazon, okay, so they have so many products, so many information, and they have a lot of sellers. They manage their products, so you must have built a much more scalable way, extensible way for people to manage all the information. Okay, as you may know, the solution on this one should be using some kind of a database. Okay, so going back to that architecture we had in the early days. Okay, so this is what we already have. Front end page, we have a backend server, dummy database, and then JavaScript to the interaction. But today we're going to show you how do we improve the database part here. Okay, instead of using a local variable as a dummy data, how can we use a professional database that manage the data in a more efficient way? And also the more importantly, the database is an independent program that almost like server always runs. They persist data, so you don't worry about the data is lost. Okay, and also it allows you to manage all the different permissions for multiple users to update the data in a very easy way. Okay, so for database, as I told you last week, there's so many options. Uh, some of the most traditional ones. Okay, you heard about Oracle. That's a very big company. Okay, but you probably I don't know how much you know about Oracle. Their main product, the part that makes most money, is their database system. Okay, they build a large, huge database system for most of the big companies. Okay, they charge a lot of money. They make a lot of money with it. Microsoft has something called a SQL Server, also was very popular. Also was a commercial product. They made a lot of money with that. A lot of companies don't want to pay, so they go with open source. Some of the popular ones are like MySQL, that's the open source one. There is a PostgreSQL that's also for free to use. So, but maybe they are not well supported compared with a big, large scale product. Okay. And then about 10 years ago, people started to develop a new type of database called NoSQL database. By comparison, the traditional database I mentioned, like Oracle, MySQL, they use the SQL statement, right? They build tables. They define the data attributes with columns. So when you open the database, you basically can see a Google, almost like Google Sheets. Okay, it has a table and cells, all of this. That's the traditional way. Later on, people develop a new way, more flexible. They turn the database into a giant hash table. Okay, they don't build the big table. you still can see that kind of structure, but essentially they just save the key value pairs, just like hash table you'd be using a dictionary in Python. The advantage of doing that is it's very fast because you know the hash table read and write. Okay, if you're familiar with the algorithm, the time composite is constant time. All right, so you don't need any time to search. So that's the fastest performance. However, the NoSQL also has some kind of downside when it comes to some of the complicated queries. But there's always a pros and cons depending on the type of system you're building, right? So I would say recent years, more and more systems are built on the NoSQL database just because it's more scalable, it's easier to use, and yeah, definitely the more popular option. Okay, but in your project, feel free to use anything you feel comfortable or you're familiar with. But at least you pick one. Okay, try to learn that and see how that works. All right. So what I want to show you is use something very popular called MongoDB. Okay, MongoDB is also a very popular NoSQL database, since 10 years ago. All right. And the reason I use MongoDB is because they have a pretty good hosting service called MongoDB Cloud. Okay, I think the company actually provide this. Okay, so I find this one good because they provide some of the free tier. You don't have to pay anything. It's good enough for you to build a prototype. And also they're already hosted. You don't worry about the server, so it's ready to use. Okay, so just go ahead to sign up with account. I think you can just do that for free. Okay, once you sign in, you can start to create your project. Okay, I'm gonna start to do mine first. Okay, so I'll go here and I'll choose a different organization, and then I'll do a new project. Okay, so this time I'll do a $5 lunch um, database. Click on next. Just default setting. There will be some other settings you need to pay attention, but I will show you that later on. Once you have a project, you need to create a cluster. Okay, the cluster is basically a collection of servers. Um, Mostly talking about like big systems, big companies, and they need not just one database server. They need many, many machines to support scalability, to backup things. But that's why they want you to start a cluster. But in our case, I don't think we need a lot of servers. Probably just one is enough. So that's how you choose the performance. Okay, so obviously the M10, that's gonna cost some more, but you got a better storage, you got a big RAM and CPU. But then if you go with the free, your storage is less, and then you have to share the CPU and memory. But this is more than enough for you to use for quite a long time. Okay, so I'll start with the free one, and then you can choose where to host your server. So MongoDB doesn't build a cloud service. They use either AWS, they use Google Cloud, they use Microsoft Azure. Okay, so that doesn't matter too much. I will go with AWS just because it's more popular. Okay, so give a name. We'll call it LunchDB. All right. And the region, you want to specify which data center you want to host that server. In this case, I'm going to with the West because it's closer to us, so we can get a better performance. All right, that's the main thing you want to choose. And then you create a deployment. So that is going to create the server for you in the background. Okay, so every database, you need to provide some kind of users. So right now, they give you a default user here. I'll just create that user. Okay, that's it. And after that, you will see there's a button to tell you how you can connect to that database. Okay, I'll show you that one shortly. Okay, the most commonly used way is that we use something called drivers to do that with program. Okay, so we'll come back to this one later on. Okay, so let's see. They are building the database, and so once the database is up, okay, so you could go to the clusters. All right, so this is ready to use, and you should be able to later on just connect and browse the connection. We're gonna wait this one a little bit. All right, so once this one is up and running, we can then just try to connect it. All right, and then there are different ways you can interact with the database. There's also a campus that is kind of a GUI you can use. All right. And we can actually maybe install this one. Okay, so. So that way it's easier for us to um, interact with the database. You can see what's going on. But I think the browser also support it. You don't have to do this one. Okay, let me just download this one anyway. All right, and then where we're doing that one, let me see if the things here are done. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have to do the other software. They actually have this kind of a data explorer that allows you to see the inside database. So if you open that database, okay. All right. So that's what's stored in the database. By default, they have this thing called admin, and there's some again, it's all dummy like table stuff. And then there's something called local. All right. And that's the different databases. For each database, you could create new things. For example, everything is called a collection. Okay, I'll just show you an example. I'll do a new collection. I'll do a student. All right. This one, maybe I can create an admin. Let me see. I should create a new database first. Yes, this is the way to go. Okay, I'll do a $5. Okay. And the collection name will be food. Okay, I'll create that one. All right, so that's our dedicated database for this application. And then every database can have a lot of collections. Every collection is almost like a table. You split different things. For example, this collection is to store all the food information. The other one is to store the user information. Next one will be storing the restaurant information. Okay, so from here, you are in this collection and you can add the data and then you call the document. Okay, so ID you must have, but once you do others, we besides ID, we also need to add some other things. Okay, so because here I want to show you the format stuff. Okay, so I won't change it here. So at this point, you just need to know that there's some kind of explorer you can use. Okay, to interact with the database to see what's being stored there. Okay, later on we're going to use the program to read and write to search. Okay, so that's looks like everything is set up. Okay, so you know when they go back to the code, since we use Python, okay, so we got to learn how do we use Python to interact with the database. All right, so normally you have the Google. There's should be some kind of a Python library, okay, for developers. Let's see if they, oh no, this is the ads. Okay, so just something like this. Okay, MongoDB with Python. Okay, they're gonna give you some of the very basic code for you to connect. Okay, so let's see if there are any kind of sample code. Yeah, this one they use something called a PyMongo, and they import something called a Mongo client, and then there is some kind of a command to try the connection to see everything works, a lot of sample code, right? So you can just pretty much follow this one, but I would suggest that we go with AI to figure out something more efficiently. Okay, just show me a hello world example of using Python to interact with MongoDB hosted in the cloud. Just show the basic read and write example. Keep the example super simple and concise. So you don't want to see a lot of code. All right. So let's see what they provided. Um, Anytime you learn something new, this is some approach I would suggest because it will automatically summarize all the library you need. As you can see, this code is so much easier to read than this documentation. Okay, when you look at this one, it's just very, very overwhelming. I don't even want to read it. But this one is so clear. Even you never yet done this before. Okay, look at a code, import a library. That's some kind of a username and password you can probably get, and then you have some kind of client that looks at this as just a template code. And here you do some kind of database name, you have some kind of a collection, we already seen that concept. This is how you write, just one line of code. You write, you call it insert. This is how you read, you do find one. such a simple example to demonstrate everything. Okay, I'm going to just copy this one here. Let's play around with that one in our project. So I go here to do a new Python file. I'll do a Mongo test. All right. And I'm going to copy the file here. And obviously we don't have this dependency, so we will need to install that. All right, so let's install this dependency first. Okay, once that is ready, so a couple of things to be noted. So first of all, you need to provide this URL because we're local. We have to know where is your database, where is it hosted, right? So you're hosted that in MongoDB cloud. So if you go back here, all right, find out your database. All right, and then that's why you have a button called connect, and click on that. There is a drivers, and down here you can find that URL. Okay. But they didn't, so you have to copy and paste this one here, okay? But then you have to find that password. I did not actually, I did not see the password. Okay, I gotta find that one. Um, okay, so I should actually copy that password first. So that should be under and identities. Or yeah, that should be the one. Okay, let's just generate another password. Okay, so I'm gonna generate this one. All right, copy that. Okay, update. All right, so now I got a password. I can just paste it here. Okay, but obviously there more secure way you do this. You can put this into the local environment variable. We don't have to talk about that one right now. So this is very clear because you can see this URL indicate where the database server is. That's your database name, and that's the username and password. Okay, so with this you should be able to connect a client, and the client here, you gotta provide I think this should be the database name. Okay, in our case. All right, so we go back and our database is called LaunchDB, but that inside, um, I think we're looking at, oh, let's connect this again. All right, so we're looking at the $5-. Okay, I think that should be the one we're looking for. Okay, and $5-, the collection has food. Okay, so the food is the one we are looking for. Okay, so this is how you locate the database under it. The $5 corresponds to these different databases, and the collection is food. That's one of the tables under it. Okay, now you have write and read. Okay, so let's just try write first. Okay, it looks like this is just a JSON file, exactly what we want, right? So name, we do Subway, price, we do none, and we also have URL, image, URL. Okay, let's copy that one over. All right, super simple piece of code. Okay, let me clean up this one. It's really 1, 2, 3, like 6 lines of code. Okay, you do right. Let's see if that works. Okay, I'm gonna run here. All right, so we didn't print any responses, but let's just go here just to see if we got anything. All right, so it looks like we have run one record already. Okay, see the name, price, and image URL. They also generate the ID for you to use. Okay, so it just means how you talk to the cloud server already automatically. Okay, so that's one, and then we can do another one. We can do Panda Express, and that price is 10, and the image URL right here. All right. Obviously, you can do more. Got Starbucks. We have, oh, the pizza. And let's all get their images. Wait, I think I got the wrong one. So this, this is the pizza. Okay, so let's run this one. And you go back here. Let's refresh this one. I'll just refresh the page. All right, so you got 4 items. Okay, so same structure, all have the same attribute, name, price, and image URL. Okay, so now we're putting the data back to the cloud. All right, to the database. And I'm gonna comment on this one because you don't want to add too many duplicates. Let's actually test out the search. Okay, so from that collection, I want to find, and looks like you're gonna do things with just you know some attributes. For example, if I do name, I want to search Starbucks. Okay, that's probably how they do the search. Let's try it. I'm gonna run this, and they print out this Starbucks records. Okay, together with the ID, because this is something MongoDB create automatically. Okay, and I want to search for Subway, and that's how you can do that. All right. But in our case, we want to just get all of them, right? So I think there's something called find all, or anyway, I can't remember that. So let's actually go to AI, how to um, find all the records in a collection. Yep, that's something called find. Okay, you can do a find and they're going to return you a collection. All right, so try this. For each food in this collection, find, and let's just print this food. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Run this. All right, they got everything ready to us. Okay, that's how you search. Now, if you see this, this part becomes very easy. All right, so what I will do is I'm gonna just comment on this. Okay, I won't use this one anymore because this is not professional. All right, however, our search function here doesn't work. Okay, all we need to do is somehow replace that with the previous database stuff. Okay, so we need to, let's actually move our initialization to the other code. Okay, we've got a Mongo setup, connection, all the things are ready. Okay, and now whenever you're trying to search, well, we are going to use this, which is called a collection dot find. That's all we need to do. Because this time, it doesn't come from your local variable. It comes from the database. All right, that should give us the right results. Okay, let's give it a shot. All right, rerun this whole thing. Go to here. Let's just test it directly. Okay, we do 5. All right, looks like it's not working. Let's look at the errors. Okay, so looks like this one is not a JSON serializable. And I think it's mostly talking about you got this food here. Okay, so what type of the project is? You can't directly just get the attribute like this, right? So we need to turn that into the right JSON format and be able to call that. Okay, so let's see. Right here, do they give us more examples? So to find, and they didn't show us examples. Okay, so give us an example on how to get the value of an attribute of the return object from Mongo. So you do the documentation. Yeah, that's exactly what you do. Or they have something called a get, right? And that's what you do. All right, so that should be the way to go, but let's actually just make sure everything is right. Okay, let me just try to print the food first. Oh, wait. No, I know the reason. It's not that line of code. I think it's the end. Okay, so let me see. I think they're complaining this one here. Okay, so yeah, so let me print the results first. Make sure the result can be shows up because I think that's probably the reason. Okay, so I come back here. Let me test this again. I do the search. Yeah, exactly. So this one does give the right results. Okay, right here. The part they're complaining is the return part because when you return, you assume that this one you're gonna turn that into a JSON format, which is string, but they don't know how to deal with this. Okay, because this is not a regular string, so they don't know how to serialize this part. Okay, so I think there had to be some best practice. Okay, let me just ask. Okay, all right. Now, since I know all the detail, even if you don't know this, if you just copy the whole like error messages, I think they will probably tell you what's going on. Okay, but here let me just pinpoint. Okay, so we are returning the object as JSON to the friend, but the default object ID is not serializable with the following format. What should we do? All right. Yeah. So what they do is that every time you when you got this um, document, you rewrite this whole ID. Okay. So you change this ID attribute just into something string. All right. Or you can pop. I think you just need to delete that one. Um. All right. Anyway, so I'll just use this approach. Okay. So just to change that into the string so that it's easier to understand. So all I need to do is go here. As you're adding that, we need to change the food. Okay. Change the ID into a string type. I think that's how you can do it. All right. Rerun this application. Going back, search again, and that comes results. Okay. So 50. This time everything comes from database. Okay, it's not a local anymore. So let me prove that for you. So if I go to the database, I want to change it. Okay, so Subway today has some kind of promotion. I change that into 3. All right. So you update. All right. So now if I search 5 again, and now you see Subway. All right. So that's the ideal situation, right? The user shouldn't know too much about the data stuff. They stay with this front end, and the admins, we manage all the data, all the information you want. All right. So that's how you read and write. And obviously, you can create another admin page to modify all the different information. I'll leave that to the end, to the next time. Okay. Um, but so far, guys, I want to focus on this really, really simple fundamental thing, but does cover every piece of thing you will need to build. Okay, database, and how do you connect? How do you read and write? Okay. Uh, I do suggest using things like MongoDB just because it's free. They provide very good hosting. And then also the NoSQL, I found that the NoSQL database might be easier for you to do the Gen AI generation later on. You don't have to manage the schema. Otherwise, you have to manage the table stuff. But there's pros and cons. Okay, but still, if you already know some kind of database, go for it. There are different kind of options. Uh, some of you might heard about the Firebase. That's the one. Something called Superbase. There's something called a Prisma. All similar. You can see the UI are even similar. They're all kind of trying to host all the database systems for you to use, so that it's easier for you to build the application. All right. Yeah. So that kind of wrap up this first set of them. Okay. I use a little bit like over 2.5 classes to show you. I want to keep it really simple so that you know it's not that difficult. It's not that overwhelming. But that does cover quite a lot of different things. Okay, Python Flask, um, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then we even talk about MongoDB. So 7 things. So if you just do this example, once you finish, you should immediately update your resume, your language and the skills. You should put these 7 items there. That's how you can make your resume stronger. Okay. You don't have to be an expert. If people ask you, well, what's your experience with Flask? Well, I just did this in a software engineering project. We use Flask as our backend framework since I know Python. I didn't do a lot, but I did create, a couple of APIs in the backend. You just be honest, right? But at least you need to have this kind of experience to be able to talk about it. All right. So we'll start to use more uh, examples. All right. I would ask everyone to also do a similar project. This is not your final project, but I want you to do something like this scale, okay? But before that, I want you to push everything to GitHub. All right. So I won't talk about GitHub right here. Okay. I have some lot of recordings. I'll share that with you, and then most of you don't need that. Okay. So let's see. So here, since we're done with one version, okay, we're gonna make more changes. So we need to use GitHub to manage it. Okay. So I will go to create a repository. All right. So let's just go here. This is our old software engineering repository. So I go here. All right, and now we just create a new repository. I'll do that as a new $5 bench sprint. All right, and then I will make it for now, turn that into private. I'll just create. Okay, since this is the empty repository, so I need to initialize my project, turn that into a Git project, right? So I'll go here to terminal. Yeah, this is the same folder. Okay, so I'll just, if you don't know how to do it, just follow this one. Okay, just git initialize, turn that into a repository. All right, and then they want you to add README, but you have a lot of files. You do to git, just add. All right, and then do a commit. All right, and set up the main branch and add this repository, and finally you push. All right, so now we've got everything here. All right, so the two source code, this is for demo, and then templates has all the URL. This one, you don't have to check in. You're always not supposed to check in this one because it's the IntelliJ configuration, but that's fine. All right. So obviously, all your projects you should manage that with Git. This is very important because in the near future, when you start to use AI to generate more code, you gotta push more frequently just in case something's wrong. You can always go back. All right. So um, that's all about this web application example. Any questions? Okay, so I think I'm going to just pause here. Okay, so I'll post the video and I'll put one assignment immediately. Okay, just do this type of small hello world example. Make sure everyone knows the fundamentals. Okay, but I don't want to go more than this. I don't want to show you, oh, how do we do the login stuff? That actually going to add a lot more things on the security part of using the Flask and some other table stuff. Too much. I think those part the AI will take care of it. Okay, but you need to know always know what's your backbone, the structure of your project, what's going on here. Okay, so that's this one here. You need to know this one super clearly. Okay, anytime AI gonna add code, make changes, they're always touching all the three different parts. They keep touching that. Okay. If you use MongoDB, they don't touch this one a lot because a lot of things they can automatically create. But if you use other like MySQL stuff, the general AI also will give you the SQL statement for you to update the database. But the AI will constantly making changes between these two back and forth. All right. So that's all I want to share. Okay, let me stop recording.